and welcome to Talk It Out, where we talk it out. My name is Duryea Rashad, and I'm so happy to be here. Today's show is going to be especially fun because we have some guests from all around the globe that have joined us today. We're going to talk about some current events. We're going to talk about some politics, and we're going to talk about the view of America from an outside perspective. So before we get into that, I want to remind you that Talk It Out is a space where people of opposing viewpoints get together and have healthy, productive dialogue in a respectful way. Keeping in mind that it's not always about proving who's right and who's wrong. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our highly esteemed panel. First, we have returning to the panel, Mr. EJ Cameron.
What's up, y'all? Oh, I'm sweaty. Excuse me.
I know. Yeah, get yourself together. Okay.
All right. Yes, go. Oh, no.
EJ lives in Chicago for 8 years, where he has graduated from and performed at the Second City IO and Comedy Sports. He was a recipient of the Second City Training Center's Bob Curry Fellowship in 2016 before joining the cast of ETC's 43rd Review, Grinning from Fear to Fear, and ETC's 44th Review. Prior to moving to Chicago, EJ received his BFA in acting at Columbus State University, not Ohio, Georgia, and performed with multiple troupes. He is represented by, help me,
Panessa
Talent, and is an avid pro wrestling fan who loves the color purple, the color, not the movie. Okay, EJ, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. You know, I'm sweating because I was eating macaroni and cheese. It was a little warm.
Was it the box kind, or was it the kind that your grandma makes?
It's the box kind.
No, you can't do that. You can't do the box kind.
Yes, you can. Sometimes you just got to get in and get out, you know? My mom made me some for my birthday when I was back home. So
happy belated birthday. That's right. You did turn.
Oh, thank you. That was not a plug. But yeah.
It was a plug. All right.
Yeah, I'm 31 again.
Next, joining us and returning to the panel is Miss Kiana Shelton. Kiana Shelton hails from Atlanta, Georgia. She's a longtime educator who started her career as a high school French teacher in Atlanta public schools. And now she works in corporate learning and development at a prominent software company in Austin, where she now resides. When she isn't delivering trainings or
Oh, you might have froze a little bit. I don't know, Duryea froze.
Hey, Kiana, how you doing? I'll talk to you in stall, I guess.
I was about to say, I was like, I can still hear you. And for the people who are out and about, thank you, Duryea. I am indeed. I'm excited to be here. I am particularly interested in this discussion. I spent some of my best years not in America, and I want to go back because I can't retire there. We're here. But per usual, just happy to lend my voice and crack a few jokes, but doing good. I'm actually in DC right now because I had to help out a friend, and so we can also talk through my trauma of being unsolicited by a Trump supporter.
I'm so sorry, you guys. Look, it's storming over here. But I knew. But look, we were.
No, we're in the same place talking about it storming over here. I'm an hour away from you talking about it storming.
Where you're not? It is storming. It's raining.
I'm over here by Columbia Heights. How is that, like an hour?
Oh, we're far. But anyway, okay. I knew I left it with two capable people. I knew y'all would have carried the show. Okay, so Kiana,
we both sat here like, all right, I guess I'm in charge. Right. I'm the captain now.
And look, right, this my ship now. And so we over here trying our best. Over here looking like a little pickaninny, but I'm over here trying to be cute. Look at the glasses.
I know, really. So Kiana, before it cut me off right before I was about to plug your rescue cat, Otis Brown.
Thank you, plug Otis.
I was gonna plug Otis. Got to make sure to plug Otis. Okay, how you doing, Kiana? How you been?
I was saying I'm doing really well. I was just here in DC to help a friend who was recovering from surgery, which is like a scary time to be in a hospital, but she was well taken care of. So I'm just here hanging out with my best friend. And so after getting a COVID test shoved up my nose twice, I feel like it's nice being in the company of others. We're being safe around here, I promise.
At least you're getting tested.
Yeah, no, I will say that because I live in Texas where garbage is, honey, but we're doing our best out here. I live in Austin as white people. But it's great. And life is good. I will say, I can say it because it's public knowledge, but I work at a company that IPO'd today. So it's like pretty busy.
I
And
don't know
so in
what
our
IPO
next,
means.
it went public. It was a privately
Oh,
held company and it
and
went
now it's
public.
public. I remember that episode of
And
Empire.
yes, exactly. It's
Yes,
now
I
a
know what you're
publicly
talking
held
about.
company, which I can say because that's on the news that happened. Because you know, you
Right.
get that little notice like you were an insider, you can't say anything. I'm like, well, I think I can repeat what's on CNN. I think I can repeat that. Um, but it's good, and so there's a lot of excitement around that. That's mostly been my day being like, oh, can I finally build some of this generational wealth that you stole from my ancestors for 400 years?
Right.
Maybe. So that's all I'm thinking about this. People are like, oh, I'm so excited. It's so much hard work. I'm like, reparations.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right,
that's on my mind.
we have another returning panelist. Technically, she's not a returning panelist because the episode that she did has not yet aired, but I'm going to consider her a returning panelist. Jessica Meyer, how are you?
Hey, how y'all doing? It's
Wonderful.
good to see Kiana and see you guys again.
Wonderful.
I know it's been too long. Good to
I know.
see
Yeah.
you.
The three
We're
of
not
us
gonna
went
say
to
how
high
many
school
years.
together.
Ah,
Yeah,
More
me,
than
Kiana, and
decades.
Jessica went to high school together. So I think we
Oh,
took
that's
Spanish
fun.
together, right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
know, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Something.
But let me give Jessica, she gave a really short blurb. Jessica is a real estate developer and entrepreneur. So you can
There
feel
you
free
go.
to reach her at her IG. It's Jessica Meyer. Did I spell Meyer right?
Myers. It's Jessica
With an S?
Myers with the
Okay.
S. Yeah,
I'm about to fix it right now.
yeah.
Bam.
I'm sure Jessica does a really great job as a real estate agent, but let's really talk about her modeling career, which I hope is taking off.
Right?
Because
If you see Jessica's online pictures, her real estate, she'd be like,
I am
you
not a
look
real estate
gorgeous.
agent. I am not a real estate agent, but I appreciate the love. Thank you.
okay,
Gorgeous.
how are you? Catch us up.
I'm good. I'm good. I mean, I'm just chilling. We actually down here now in the country looking for projects down here. So you actually asked me about portfolio and things like that. And so that's why I definitely wanted to have a sidebar conversation about that and what that means, especially to Kiana's point, you talk about reparations and all that. Land ownership and access to ownership is really the key to building your wealth. And that's what I'm all about, helping others.
Awesome.
And having fun along the way.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. That's very true. So as far as our panel is concerned, we have two very, very, very special guests. We originally had 4, but there were just some scheduling issues that came up. So we ended up with 2, but I'm so happy to have the 2 that we have. Okay. One hails from New Zealand, our first guest. His name is Huepa Te Moana. He's a proud New Zealander while still being a child of the world, having lived in LA, London, and Australia. He is an entrepreneur, a DJ, and a podcaster. He's currently living in a piece of paradise called New Plymouth, famous for being one of a handful of places in the world where you can surf and snowboard in the same day. Hepa prides himself on getting uncomfortable and having the conversations that need to be had over his podcast called Best Side. So let's welcome Hepa. Thank you for being here, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Just unmuting myself quickly. How's everybody doing? Thank you very much for having me. It's awesome to be connected with some like-minded people. Everything you guys are speaking about, I'm definitely vibing with. We've got some things happening here in New Zealand in terms of equality and things like that going down at the moment, especially here in my hometown. So you did very well on my name, man. I can understand that a lot of people would see that as a big hurdle. Hepa is fine. I only really get Hepa Te Moana, the full name, from either my mother or the government. So Hepa, Hepa is fine, man. Hepa is fine. But awesome to meet you all and looking forward to getting to know you a bit better in our discussion today.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Also, I said a little bit about it. You want to tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, cool. So similar to, I guess, to your introduction to the podcast, mine started in a very similar light. I grew up in a lot of different households. For a time there, I was as a state kid, as a younger man. So I spent a lot of time in different places, different houses, and I realized that a lot of the miscommunication or misconceptions that people have, they could actually probably go away with a quick conversation. But because these people don't speak to each other or they don't engage, that conversation doesn't get to have place. And so a lot of walls and barriers exist where a lot of those conversations can actually help bring down a lot of those barriers and a lot of those walls. So that's what inspired me to start the podcast. I would quite often bump into people in the streets, or have conversations like this. I'm like, man, I know 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12 people that need to hear this right now because it would really help them. So I was like, man, I can create a resource pool for these conversations. Boom, podcast.
Right. And it's great because we definitely have similar goals with our podcast and trying to have these uncomfortable conversations. So thank you so much for being here. Our next guest, his name is Kudanya AJ. He's from India. He's an India-based senior media and communication expert, a writer, and a poet. He is a journalist by training and has worked with marquee organizations such as CNBC India, Reuters, Press Trust of India News Agency, and others. AJ holds a diploma in journalism from the prestigious Indian Institute of Mass Communications, IIMC, New Delhi, and also a diploma in management from Narsai Moine. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong. Institute of Management Studies, NMIMS, Mumbai. He has a master's degree in political science from the University of Delhi and has a deep understanding of the Indian political system and politics, as well as happenings in other parts of the world. So welcome to Talk It Out, Kudanya.
Thank you very much. Well, and very good morning to everybody from New Delhi. So it might be a late evening down there. Here it is early morning.
How early?
How early? I woke up at 4 o'clock, 4 a.m. and it's right now we are at 5:44 a.m. So that's nice. It's nice to see the sun, rising sun, sometimes.
But your energy doesn't feel like 5 o'clock.
Yeah, we're excited.
It's because of that. It's because of the company I'm keeping right now.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's the Power Pack panel actually.
Double thank you to you all for being, because time zone differences, I'm sure it's early for both of you. Also, thank you so much for being here. I'm so ready for this episode. So we usually do check-ins, which we kind of just did. So let's jump into our current events. Okay, anyone who's seen this show before, anyone knows anything about me, knows what's about to come out of my mouth. Kiana, brace yourself. Black is King just hit Disney Plus a few days ago.
I'm gonna stay on mute because I hate everybody.
No. I don't want you to stay on mute. I want all the smoke, Kiana. I want all the smoke today. I want you to get off mute right now. All right, so I have not seen Black is King. I have not seen Black is King yet. No,
what?
I haven't. Because I have so much stuff going on right now, and I know when I see Black,
So then what are we gonna talk about?
Oh no, we're
not talking about it.
Because we're not gonna spoil Black is King anyway, right? So basically what I'm gonna say is I don't know,
I might do it.
Who saw Black is King in this group?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
And that's okay. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's okay to share.
EJ, you saw it. EJ, is he frozen or is he just giving me a face?
He's still moving.
He's giving side-eye.
Yeah.
He's giving side-eye.
That was a deep
No, I'm here.
Okay. So I guess my issue with the Black is King is not really talking about her and what she did. I am frustrated at the response that I'm getting online. It seems like there's a lot of negativity surrounding this project, even more so than her previous projects. And I tend to see that there's something in common with most of the people who are criticizing her negatively. And Kiana disagrees.
Negativity?
Huh?
Negativity? It's
a lot of it.
I was like, who are you following?
It's creative.
Look, it's like this one dude, he did a review of it. I wish I could find that link. And he basically called it immature, amateurish.
We can't take any critique from men. Let me be very clear. Men don't get to speak on this, period.
Men don't get to speak on it's about a man. It's about it's not a story of manhood. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't see it, but I'm asking. It's not, the previews made it seem like it's a story about a male child being put into the world.
All right, here we go. I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is. So,
spoiler alert.
First of all, don't read reviews. Don't read reviews and you ain't watch it. Form your own opinion first. But anyway,
that's
all I saw was
why I
better friends
watched
Apollo first.
There is no better art
friend.
imagery created for our people for such a time as this. That is the theme song as we usher into this new age as we've purged the hate, all of the craziness that's going on. This is the way to bring it into My Black is Beautiful. No longer showing Africa with a poor child with a little bug sitting right here on the forehead and the protruding stomach. It's showing Africa in all of its beauty and all of the stripping that they try to do of our culture. It's beautiful. Embrace it. It's abstract. It's art. I love it. Anybody who hates it, what are you creating? That's what I want to know. If anybody who got something to say, let me see what you created out of your mind that has never existed before, and now you're showing imagery and art. It's amazing.
Okay, so having said that, I guess I have questions for Kudanya and for Hoipa. So, what is the perception abroad about Beyonce? I'm so curious.
Okay, about USA, you mean?
Beyonce.
Beyonce, Giselle, Knowles Carter. What do the people of Mumbai think about her?
I didn't get it. Can you?
He said, "I don't get it."
I don't get it.
Is it like I'm kind of shocked right now? Do you not know who Beyonce is?
Well, maybe I do, but I don't know the context. Maybe.
Mind blown.
Wow, that answers your question right there, Duryea.
That answers the question right there. Okay, Hoipa, do you know who Beyonce is?
Yeah, I know who Beyonce is.
He's a DJ.
It's divided, man. Like there's people here, you know, that they want to be in the beehive, they want to be down with the crew, they absolutely love her. And then there's a lot of people. Hey, I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me. But there's a lot of people that think she's highly overrated too.
But the thing about that is, I think every person, every artist, every entity, every business, once you reach a certain level of success, that's what's going to come with it.
For sure.
No matter
what, top, right? You eventually kind of hit a place. Well, I think people have their perception or expectations, and it's more often than not that person needs to adjust that rather than you needing to do better, you know? But I mean, I'll admit this. I've never really spoken aloud about this. So I was at Coachella in 2010, I think it was. So not the most recent one, but back when Jay-Z headlined, and she came out. It wasn't announced that she was a part of it. She came out, and I teared up a little bit. So I was more into it than I thought I was at the time. So, I just looked at my best friend who I was there with, and he just looked at me. He knew the look in my eye. He said, "All right, I'll hold on to you." And he grabbed onto the back of my collar, and I just stuck my head down and beelined it for the front of the stage.
Really? Did you make it up there?
Yeah, we got right to the front. It was good. We're grouping out, being crazy at the front there.
I mean, the only reason I bring her up is really I wanted to talk about more of the cultural implications of that story and what it means, not only for... Because I agree with what Jessica said. I think it's important that we start to see better representations of dark-skinned people on film.
And so let me stop you there, because that's where the rubber meets the road for me. Let me stop you there. So here's the whole, and we talked about this on Facebook a little bit, Duryea, and so this is my opinion, but based in lived experience as an actual Black woman who is I ain't the darkest, so I'm not even gonna sit here and tell you I'm giving you Alex Weck melanation, okay? But I'm a little dark, and so my whole thing is this: I have nothing against Beyonce and her as an artist, because I've never met an underpaid Black woman in my life. My friend Jordan tells me that all the time. I ain't never met one, so that doesn't bother me. The thing that I think is so interesting is how Black people specifically are so ready to take what is simply a beautiful visual display of art and a continent that otherwise, just like Jessica says, gets this narrative of distended bellies and flies it. Like, it is beautiful to see the richness and like the design and sort of what's coming out of Africa. That's great. Let's leave it there. The problem is you got people, this is a real tweet on Twitter, talking about, this is how my parents must have felt when Thriller came out. Which was? So like, this is my problem, because you really have to think about
what's wrong with that statement.
Right. All right. So this is my issue with this. We're talking about a message, first off, sanctioned by an anti-Semitic entertainment company. So let's talk about it. We on Disney Plus. We ain't radical. This is not the revolution.
Wait. You still consider Disney anti-Semitic?
Do you still consider America racist, even though chattel slavery?
The only reason I asked that is because I know Walt Disney had that legacy, but he also didn't like black people.
It still permeates. So what you have to understand now, let's take it back, because I'm an educator. You have to take it back. So when we look at even things that are as, let's take the SAT. I'll give you that example. So the SAT is super controversial in the sense of like, some people are mad at testing, blah, 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 blah. But let's drill down to the root of that. The SAT was specifically for standardized testing for college entry, was created to keep Jews out of schools. It's subsequent, because they don't care about darkies. Literally, if you think it, like they don't care about us. They weren't like, ooh, let's oppress black people. They truly don't care about us. They mostly care about controlling white women, but that's a different dissertation. But all I'm trying to tell you is, even at the root, you're still getting that in Disney's practice. I ain't gonna say, but I got friends who work for them out, so I ain't trying to put them out, get paid, get your money. But it's just like, when you look at any sort of capitalist business that's built on that level of exclusion, that permeates. It permeates for the fact that we went through all these decades with like trash storylines. We got a black princess finally. She ain't nothing but a frog. But that's not what I'm getting to. Let's get back to Beyonce. So yes,
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I agree with you.
My whole thing is this. So it can't be revolutionary from the get-go. Done. So like, it's you. Capitalism presented on a black body is not inspiring to me. Like, black people running a plantation, I'm still on a plantation. So what I was to say is, I think it's fine if we're like, oh, Beyonce, that was a beautiful coffee table book that I would buy for it. I'd be like, that's beautiful. Give me the cover of Vogue, honey. But what you didn't see at the end credit, like, did you see her go back through the captions and tell you every single black Afrobeat artist on there? Did you see her making a statement after that about putting on these other creatives? Did you see that? Or did
wait, I'm confused. I'm confused. So you're saying that she should have made that statement?
She should have. That's what I'm saying. Like,
you don't think by just putting them there and them having a presence?
No, because she has a history of intellectual property theft already. So no. But what I'm saying, but this all I'm saying, I'm not even gonna get into this. All I'm saying is this. Is like, as a black person, we're talking about a narrative of black is beautiful. People from the continent are beautiful. And in this message, I felt if she really wanted to be that person, she needed to decenter herself from that narrative, because quite frankly, I don't want black is beautiful from someone who we know is beautiful. She's light skinned. She's perfectly hourglass shaped. She's blonde. She has straight. She's able bodied. Like, I don't need that message from her. That's not who I need that message from. So like, I just don't need to take it to the revolution. Y'all are already ready to take this Beyonce to the revolution. I'm like, no, Beyonce is a nice light skin who made us a nice little Africa thing, and it was very cute. I loved it. She on Disney's payroll, honey. She made this money from the anti-Semites. I love it. But you're not going to sell me capitalism on a black body and tell me it's revolutionary.
Okay,
but
let me hold you right there, Kiana. Let me because I'm gonna let EJ hop in here too. The only reason I have an issue with what you're saying is you're basically saying that screw if the message is good, it has to be delivered by someone I'm willing to take it by.
I think it's decentering herself. It's not so much that like the vehicle, but you have to, when you know that you hold that privilege, you really need to, because the reason why you find that black women are the biggest critiquers of her right now is because we're literally being fed this message by someone. Colorism is real. Featureism is real. And when you sort of feel like, oh, but I'm like, is this who I want this from? This is still capitalism. Her and JC still using the same tax loops, not paying their taxes like white people. And y'all want to sit here and bump like Beyonce is y'all friend. I love the visuals. Let's keep it there. But what I'm saying is there were so many ways in which she could have decentered that art, acknowledged the fact that, I mean, she's wrapping up capitalism in a black body. I don't care. Sell me another plantation.
Okay, hold on, Kiana. Hold on. Wait, let EJ, because
wow.
I disagree with a lot of what you just said, but let EJ get in here. He was trying to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just in terms of the album itself, if you go look at the album, all those artists are featured that are in the videos because they're on the soundtrack. I'm sorry?
But what I was just gonna say the music is garbage, but go ahead. That's another.
I mean, that's up to you. But then that's also my issue, because see, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the beef too. It's like we have this thing of like, yay, look at us doing this thing, and it's like, I'm gonna split this hair though, because that's how it feels. I saw a lot of people being like, oh, this is cool. I'm watching the video, and I'm watching the whole thing. I'm like, the visuals. Yes, I'm looking at her backup dancers, and they're not all light skinned, skinny Beyonce dancers.
So let
They're
me stop
all
you
like
there.
different shapes of.
And let him go. Let him go, Keon. You talked
Okay,
about 5 hours.
no, go ahead, let it rip. I'm just
So
saying,
here's
like,
the thing. So again,
it's
this is
that thing of like, man, they made it, and it's still like it's a problem that they made it. Like, what? Why are we mad at them? Why are we
it's
mad she
not.
got money and then she took this
I'm not.
opportunity to present something that a lot of people don't get to see? We're
And I
going,
think that
yeah, she did it, but why she do it like that? Is how it
here's my
came,
whole
how that
thing.
came off.
I think
Maybe I'm hearing
I
that wrong.
I think that's lovely, and I know Beyonce is not a critical race scholar, and I'm not going to treat her like one. But what I'm saying is this. So, take for example, you said she had all these beautiful different bodies, and like they were, larger women, smaller women, blah blah. Okay, but let's think back. Y'all watched that homecoming video, and she says in that little documentary that she was on an oppressive vegan diet in order to lose weight to get ready for that show. Now, if you talk to any person who has dealt in terms of intersectionality between fat phobia and disability, what does she do? For all this praise of having all these different type of dancers in the background, you packaged up an oppressive, non-nutritional, basically dangerous vegan diet for 21 days and sold it back to us in the pursuit of thinness. But you over here trying to sell me black is beautiful and all bodies matter. Kill me on that. That's what I'm talking about. The consistency
But let me
isn't
ask
there.
you. Let me ask you
Kill
some
me
more
on
questions
that.
about that. Let me ask you questions because
Kill
I
me on
think
that.
I think if you look at any person, and I'd love to get your response on this, Hoepa and Kudanya.
At that level too.
I'd like to, if you take any person who's living a life and they can't help but to, you can, by process of living, you're somebody's role model, whether it's your child, your neighbor, by process of being alive, you're somebody's role model. Now, if I'm to role model any person, I'm going to end up collecting negative behavior. It's just part of the process because none of us are perfect. I can't make it out that this is this. So I'm sorry. So when it comes to celebrities, and especially celebrities in your respective countries, is that the relationship that they have where they're tasked with the responsibility of teaching all these things, and if they say they're on a diet, that's somehow delivering a negative message to people about body image? Kudanya?
Yeah. If I get it correctly, how much actually celebrities, their lives impact the general people, isn't it?
Say that one more time.
If I understand this correctly, you're asking if celebrities here in India, their lives, the way they live, impact the general people's life, and if they follow them that much.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's both ways in India. You have a lot of celebrities which and most of them, if you talk about the entertainment industry, the Indian film industry, which you call as Bollywood. So yes, some of the people, they do. There are a lot of magazines. There are a lot of write-ups about them. People do what you call read about them, talk about them, watch their programs, but how much they follow, it all depends on individual to individual basis, uh, because some of the older generation actors, they were actually setting up some good examples, but on the new ones, I think a lot of the new generation people, they themselves are, they don't look at them as so much of a role model, but more but people who are actually much more educated, much more they can impact their lives in different ways. So sports person will impact lives much more than perhaps an actor. In fact, if you this is a good opportunity to bring to your attention that a new star, Sushant Singh Rajput. So he was a very big upcoming star. He had acted on a big movies. This is a big news in India, and as well as outside also. So he allegedly committed suicide, but actually there was the talk of rivalry and nepotism within the industry. So that is under investigation. But
What does nepotism mean? I don't know that word.
Nepotism means there is a coterie among the film industry where they will support each other's children, or people close to you. So that's in fact a big problem in India, because of the type of society which we have. Sometimes it can be good, you pass on certain good things to the new generation, but sometimes it can be bad because it leads to blocking ways for the people who are out from outside. the industry.
So and I get what you're saying. I guess I understand the idea of it. Basically, people who are in power are favoring other people who are empowering their children to give them jobs and stuff like that.
That's the allegation here. But one thing I want to bring out is that this young star was not only just a big star, but upcoming star. But actually, he was a very educated person. He was he was an engineer. He studied in one of the top engineering colleges. He talked less about his movies, but more about quantum physics. He had visited NASA, so he was the type of people actually India India wants to follow, and that has led to a massive protest, huge protest on social media, on everywhere, and that has forced the country's highest court to come into the picture. And now investigations have started, which earlier the Mumbai police said was a suicide, which was a case of suicide, has now become a case of alleged suicide, and maybe perhaps the Central Bureau of Investigation will relook at it, and perhaps relook at the way that as if with a lot of suspicion that he was actually murdered for reasons that will certainly come out.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the thing, that India is changing very fast, and the role models are also changing fast. The role models will not be from the screens anymore, but they will be from the real lives, and where actually people impact them in a real positive manner.
We're seeing that here, actually, which actually brings us to the next.
I do know about Beyonce. I guess just perhaps because of it will be a sacrilege. I do know.
Look, but I was like, oh my God. I was like,
that was the best start to a podcast ever.
Actually, we have such a huge, we are so much in close connect with what is happening down there. A lot of people keep on coming down to India for the shows, and there is a huge fan following for a lot of artists there. And in fact, when they come here, they are very surprised that this is a part of world which they never came before, but they have such a huge following.
Right.
I'm a huge Bollywood
It sounds like you're about to switch subjects, but real quick to what Kiana was saying about fat shaming and the keto diet.
Go ahead.
I'm a Nickalicious too, but one of the things, every level of success, and I've always been in love with her hustle. Honestly, I've just recently gotten in love with her music, but it's always been her hustle for me. And I understand that success has a cost. So understanding that she went through such pain and showed the behind the scenes to that, from a girl myself, and I ain't been under 200 in God knows how long, probably since the last time I seen y'all. But it's inspired me that, damn, like, in order to reach this level of excellence, in order to reach these things, this is what you have to do. So I didn't look at her, fat shaming or anything like that, or that she's coming from a different thing. It told me that success has a cost, and there's a price that she pays for the excellence that she operates.
And we see.
But I think what I'm saying is just in just direct response is that, like, if anyone's going to break that detrimental mold, y'all are looking up to this woman like she can do no wrong because y'all buying this bad album, The Gift or whatever. But I'm just like, if that's the case, it's like, it's different when you know the cost and yet you still choose to capitalize on something that sets people up for repeated failure, weight cycling, stigma. Like, Beyonce is not a critical race scholar, so I'm not expecting this of her. I'm just saying where I see, like, oh, this is what she felt she had to do. Like, she could have not. Like, I think that's what, like,
issue is this, though, Kiana. My issue is this. I mean, if a celebrity comes out looking perfect and we have no idea how they attain that, then I think that's worse on a mentality, to be honest, because then it's like, well, no, let me hold up. Because then it's like, well, damn, I could never be that. I could never be like that. But what she's saying is, no, this didn't happen. I freaking had to go through all this. I think you also have to accept that there's choice in this. And I mean, for us as individuals, there's choice in what we expose ourselves to, what we expose our children to. There's choice in what we do. Just because 20 people watch her do this diet doesn't mean 20 people have to go and do it.
But more than 20 people. But that's what I'm telling you. That'd be silly.
1 million people don't. Like, you don't see me on the beach.
No, but that's ridiculous. Not ridiculous. But what I'm saying is like, it's one thing to grapple with the reality of the fact that we live in a society that tells us we have to look a certain way. And as a celebrity, you've done things to conform to it. It's another thing to purposefully package it and sell it to people. And
I think me and you,
another thing.
I think you and I differ with that because I think consistently what she's packaging is hustle. I think the theme, the underlying theme for me in everything she's ever done is if you want it, you have to work really hard to get it and even harder to keep it. That's if there was a tagline for her, that's what I would say it is. Because
I disagree with the Ministry of Hustle.
Wait.
9 to 5 on that.
Let's get our guest in real quick, Kiana.
I was just going to say, from an outside perspective, it just looks like you're both seeing it as like you mentioned. You think she's packaging hustle, where it sounds like Kiana feels like she's packaging conformality or conforming to the system and doing what, I don't know, falling for the trick, for lack of a better term. Like I definitely like the thing you mentioned, the vegan diet thing, that definitely stood out for me when I watched Homecoming too. Like I was kind of engrossed in watching that. And then when she mentioned how she got real strict and real tight for that, and I can understand though that other people in the room might see, oh, that's just hard work. But it did kind of sting me a bit when I watched it, and I was like, oh wow, that's kind of putting it out there. But for me, like personally, to answer the question below, are celebrities required to be role models? I don't personally believe so. I think that it's up to every individual to determine what they want to take from a person. And it's ironic, because as the question came up and everybody's talking, I actually started thinking, okay, who are some celebrities and things that I've looked up to and maybe copied some habits and stuff. And it's funny, like when I think celebrities, it actually stood out for me how much of an impact what you guys are talking about, the American culture, and me being a minority myself in my country, Black celebrities, and how much they impact us over here, really? Which I think will definitely unravel itself as we dive into the topic a bit more deeper. For sure, 100.
I'm glad you said that because we definitely are going to talk about that. But
that's
something we think. I just want to throw this out there really quick before we move forward. Did anyone ever consider that?
That wasn't a segue?
No, that wasn't. Did anyone ever consider that the reason that she was on that diet had nothing to do with how she wanted to look? And how she was going to do that show 2 nights in a row.
Let me tell you this. I have one thing to say about that.
She just had twins.
And she had just had twins. No. We're not going to see you on Facebook, Kiana, because we're going to move. I'm going to see you on Facebook.
I'm gonna tell you one thing on that. You see all these people that are COVID, all these people on COVID scrambling to go to the gym and saying it's because of their health. That's how you know white supremacy got you on that. She didn't have to do none of that. You don't got people like, I gotta go to the gym to stay healthy. Nigga, it's COVID.
Wait, so my question is, you think you blame white supremacy for health? I'm sorry, that's what it sounded like you just said.
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
You're telling me that white supremacy is why I go to the gym?
No, what I'm saying is
these because they have a certain physical image of how they want people.
Right. Thank you, EJ. All these people who are like, oh, I'm going to the gym because it's good for my health. I'm like, but you rushing to get back to the gym to get COVID. It was never about your health.
Okay.
And that's all I have to say on that. Let's keep it going.
We'll roll with that. All right. So earlier we had talked about earlier Kudanya had said something about the people who we're looking up to are going to stop being celebrities and things like that, and they're going to start being everyday people. So I wanted to talk about Corey Bush, who I just discovered yesterday, maybe. Corey Bush, and I'm a lot of this story is like new in my mind. I'm not a news person, but he's a journalist though, so he'll get me together.
I don't get to read a lot of newspapers nowadays because of the COVID thing. So we are afraid to even touch the newspapers. Everybody, pardon?
I'm sorry, you don't get online and check the news?
You check it, but you see, reading a newspaper is a very different thing than, you get to read all the perspective and all the news that you want. But you see, apart from doing your work and all, so whatever news you then get into, it is generally the basics of like 2-3 topics that are happening right now in India. One is the death of the big the real celebrity called Sushant Singh Rajput, which actually everybody was following. So that's a big story here. Then there is the COVID thing. Then again there is the India-China tensions. So, 2-3 stories in a day, you follow them, then that is enough. Earlier on, if you read the newspaper, you got in Delhi, we got a Delhi Times extra section, and in that you got all the celebrity news from outside, which a lot of people consider that part of that newspaper is trash, but still you go through that. And in fact, if you ask me, I myself don't go through that a lot.
But and I get that. So the news, and so I wasn't really so much talking about newspapers. I was really talking about just the news of Cori Bush. Well, what happened is Cori Bush ousted a 10-term incumbent in her district, which is in St. Louis. Now, this is a big deal because Cori Bush is a Black Lives Matter activist, and if I think she has, I think now there's one more vote, and if she wins that vote, which is I guess for the actual seat, there will be a Black Lives Matter activist who is in Congress, and that's huge because, and I mean now the person that she ousted was, and now another thing about her, she's Black, she's working class, and she's a single mother. As a politician, that's like So the fact that the people put her in that position is a note to what people want. I also think people overlook this because of their opinions about the job he's doing. But Trump getting in office was also a signal that people were tired of the same thing. We're tired of politicians, tired of being told everything's fine when we know that it's not. We want something different. That's another reason why Obama was in there, to be honest, in my opinion. So we're seeing this shift, and I kind of want to hear everybody's opinions on that. Who is we? What you mean? What you mean we? Kiana in the private chat said, "Who is we?" What you mean we?
You said we wanted something different, so we voted for Trump. I said, "Who is we?"
When I say we, I don't mean.
No, I know it's why I'm laughing.
Right. I'm glad you asked that. I don't mean we as in Americans. I mean we as in, I think the population here wants a change in our government. We want more things happening that benefit the people, and less about keeping people in the seats of power for as long as they can get, kind of sort of thing. So, how do y'all feel about Cori Bush making her? I guess I don't know the political term, but getting the seat that she got. And there's silence. Kiana, I know you got something to say.
I was muted. Jeez.
Right. Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's great. I think that's super great. I think the other thing. I think the other one of the things that I will say about Trump that people have realized is if this motherfucker can do it, we can all do it. So I think that in some ways empowering people to be like, oh, because as you said, single mother, Black single mother, that's usually not what's happening. But we're at a point now where like, all right, well, shit, I'm finna listen to her. Because I'm not about to listen to some old white dude tell me what to do anymore. Like that whole system that's done. We're done with that.
Do you really think that's all it is, though?
I think what?
You really think that's all it is? That it's like, oh, if he can do it, I can too? I
wouldn't say all. I don't think all. I think that is a part of it. I think for the longest, think about this. You know how many times people be like, hey, don't post pictures of me up. I might want to be president one day. Ha, 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 LOL. That's out the window.
That was every time me and EJ went to a party in college. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I still got some pictures you gotta delete.
I know.
I think it helps people, as you said. It's making we need that change. Say what?
I listen a lot.
I think there's a lag. Go ahead.
And one of the things he often talks about, he said, "What career do politicians have?" Like, I think sometimes people get so comfortable in being career politicians that you don't think to bring an educator, a science professional, people from different backgrounds to comprise and give a good, complete, well-rounded thought of how things should operate. I feel like everybody is so focused. So to your point, we want to get people out the norm to shake things up, to bring a different perspective, so that we can, you guys are supposed to be setting the standard of what makes sense for us to live, our day-to-day lives. And it's just that's why it's good to have diversity there, to have somebody that sees things from a controversial standpoint. If everybody feels the same, or if everybody's too polarizing, like you don't get anything done. So you definitely want to change up who's there making decisions on your behalf.
You also these positions weren't meant to be lifelong positions, other than the judicial branch. So I think it's good to get different people in there, get new blood in there, shake things up, get people who are going to be not actually living with other people, and not just separated from this life, and they're so surrounded with the politics of being a politician. Huepa, tell us about how that resonates where you are.
Yeah, so when you're speaking about ousting a 10-term person that was in there for so long, and you've mentioned like career politicians and things like that, like 100, we see a lot of that change happening here in New Zealand too, where people have been able to do what they do because they've always done it. But what fresh perspective or, what are they bringing to the table? And it's it seems like they've gone in there with all sorts of zest and enthusiasm. They might have come from an educational background or engineering or planning, and they've brought all those things to their government or to their local government. But over time, they've gotten comfortable, and that kind of enthusiasm or that zest has watered down. So that's the time to change the guard, right? That's when things need to be switched up. And like if I use an example happening here in my hometown at the moment, we just had our local council just voted in to have a special ward or a special seat put aside on our local government, on our local council, to be reserved for an Indigenous rep. So what that means is they voted in. So 12 out of 15 councillors voted in to establish a seat that can only be occupied by someone of an Indigenous background, so that the Indigenous people, we're called Māori here in New Zealand, so the Indigenous people, the Māori, can always have a say or always have a voice at the table of the crucial decisions that are made within local government. Now, that's never been established in any other city before. It's never happened it's happened in a few districts in our country, but not in a city. But what's happening here at the moment is that now a referendum may be taking place because a small minority has put together a petition because they don't want that to happen. I'm sure you can guess who doesn't want it to happen. But yeah,
settlers.
Yeah, for sure. Colonizers. So they don't want it happening. So they're trying to oust that voice they tried to do this back in 2000. Yeah, you got it, EJ. So this happened back in 2016, I think it was. It got voted in again. The petition ousted it. It couldn't go ahead. It never happened. So now we're trying again. But as you've mentioned, people are sick of the normal and things that have always been happening, and they kind of want that change. And we've mentioned Obama campaigned on change, Trump campaigned on change. I'm seeing a shift in the community, and a lot of people are actually starting to educate themselves instead of being like, okay, why do these Indigenous people deserve a voice better than mine? It's like, well, look, man, it's one seat out of 15.
Right,
like, how is that better or more? But the shift I'm seeing is that people are actually willing to educate, and they're starting to learn about the atrocities and the things that happen to the Indigenous people of New Zealand, and they actually go, man, we fucked up. We need to help these people out. And one way that we can do that is by having them involved in local council.
Yeah, the other way you can do that is by making direct cash payments and restoring their land back. But we're going to get there.
Yeah, so there are some settlements and things that are happening in New Zealand too, which are going down.
Everybody, 1 second.
Kia ora to my haters, okay? Kia ora to all you niggas. Give me my land back. Okay.
Thank you.
Get out of here.
Listen, so we have a guest who's joining us, and he is from.
Oh, they early.
I know. He early. Look, but it's an international guest, so I definitely want
to make
it a point to get him in here. Okay. His name is Eric Hunt. He's a writer and a comedian, and the creator and co-host of Eric and Gord. Now they're in their third season, and they're boasting over 250 episodes. He currently lives and works in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Let's welcome Eric Hunt to the stream.
Hey guys, I guess we're all ready to get started.
Oh yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. My best friend right there, EJ, he's a comedian too. So EJ wave. So that we know what we're talking about.
All right. Sorry,
I totally myself as a performer, but
I guess his
camera, guys. Sorry.
his camera is just, I don't know.
What's up, Eric?
How you doing, guys? Sorry for being late to the party.
It's all good. You missed the whole talk about Beyonce.
Oh, good. I know absolutely nothing about her, so that's probably a good thing.
Now we're talking about we spoke recently about a person who is eligible for a Congress seat. She just won an incumbent seat. She took an incumbent seat. I'm using all the incorrect political phrases. I'm sorry, I'm not a political person, but she's a Black Lives Matter activist, and she's now in the running to become a congresswoman.
Is this the one who is homeless?
I don't think she's homeless. They said she has a child, or at least children. Black, working class, single mother.
Okay.
I don't think she's...
There was another one I just heard about who had taken a seat, who was just like recently homeless and an activist who might have been a different one. But it's nice to see that ordinary people are doing these things again finally.
Oh yeah, it's her. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. 1,000%. And he's not even. You know, I feel bad. I should know that. I'm Black. I should know.
No, you're fine.
She was homeless.
Damn, Duryea, and you hosting the show.
I know. Look, it's okay. We have those days.
I think this is a thing that's happening. There's also another young woman who's running for, and I have to look it up because this is me doom scrolling on the feed, honey. But it was another young Black lady, I think, with a Southern constituency, Lord knows who, but she has been formerly incarcerated.
I saw her too.
Also running.
Yes,
I'm like,
I saw her too.
That's who I want to win right there, because the way that we treat people who live in prisons is slavery and it's garbage. And so I would be really interested in her as an abolitionist. And because I think that whether she knows it or not, she's an abolitionist.
Well,
and what it sort of looks like.
The thing about the criminal justice system, I'm gonna speak on this for a second.
Why do you sound like Mariska Hargitay? These are the stories.
The thing about the criminal justice system, and I actually am curious to know what the criminal justice system is like in Canada, New Zealand, and India, because here, I know that they say American prisons hold 50% of the world's incarcerated population, and like 80% of that is African American males. So I just would like to know are there any similarities in your countries, or what is the crime rate? Are they targeting certain people over others? Do you see more people in prisons that are of one race or creed or class? Anybody can jump out.
For sure. Like I'll lead just like in New Zealand for sure. Like I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's something like Māori people, the indigenous people in New Zealand, we only make up something like 15% of the population, but we 80 upwards % of the incarcerated people. When you think for me, it's kind of, I guess it's easy when you've grown up Māori. It's easy to understand that statistic because this colonized world, or this colonized country that we're a part of, the way that it operates wasn't meant for my people. It functions, and I can see a lot of heads nodding here, so there's obviously elements of that make sense to you too. But like, say for example, I know within we call it Māoritanga, so within Māoridom, when someone like plays up, so by plays up, that's a slang term for is not a good person or does something they shouldn't. When someone plays up, they're not sent away, like in a prison sense, they're not sent away to be by themselves and just deal with it. They are made to sit with the elders and face their family and actually come to terms with what they had done. And we work together as a community to help them work through that, as opposed to sending them away in a prison where they can sit there by themselves and maybe even create a narrative of where they're the Don Mac, they're the best person ever to other people that come into the prison, because they can play that narrative, they can create that character, and therefore they get away with it, and they don't really have to reform or rehabilitate or confront the issues and the bullshit that they have done. Where sitting with their family, being confronted by, like, we've all got abrupt, upfront aunties, right? The auntie that tells you when you're bullshitting, calls you out on your stuff, whether you've been naughty or not. They don't.
You mean my mama?
Yeah, there you go. I don't want to say it, but so when we've all got that person, so they get to avoid those people. So that in itself is a system that doesn't suit my people. Now, I'm not saying that my people should never go to prison and that we should be allowed, to bypass that process. There just has been no consideration to how we deal with people not participating in society and making errors. So when things like that, that's just one example, but when certain things like that are a part of the way a system handles discipline, of course, like, it's no secret that you're not going to be rated very highly in terms of statistics. Does that make sense? I don't know if I communicated that right.
It's actually, to me, that's kind of mind-blowing. I never could, because I've always known about the indigenous people in New Zealand. I just never considered that there would even be like almost two justice systems. And so that's the first time I've ever heard of anything like that. And
well, I think that kind of exists around the world, though, right? Like, if you think, like, there'll be places that have their way of dealing with, I said playing up, but dealing with someone who is bad or commits a crime. They would have their own way of dealing with it. But we've all been made to conform to the prison system and locking someone away and sending them away. Look, I'm not a justice and reform person. I don't work in justice, so I can't speak to what does work and what doesn't. All I know is, evidently, that doesn't work for a lot of indigenous cultures right around the world. And it's no secret that we offend and reoffend.
What do you think about all this, Eric?
I have feelings.
I know in Canada there's definitely a disproportionate number of First Nations people in prison. I wonder often, like First Nations are native people in Canada.
Okay.
I think that a part of me, as much as I sympathize, a lot of it makes me think that there's just a lot of disproportionate number of Native people are criminals. That's just the way it is here.
Wait, what? Like, wait.
But
wait,
our prison system is not like yours. Our sentences are very.
Go ahead, finish.
What? Oh, I was to say our prison system is not like the American one here. Our sentences are a joke. It's not a deterrent in any way to get sent to prison here. You get. Where it's something in the U.S. you would get 10 to 20 years for, you'll get 1 to 2 here, if you do any time at all. It's our entire justice system needs a complete rewrite in Canada.
That's interesting that you say that, because here, so you're essentially saying that in Canada you feel like the justice system there needs to be more stern, and that you feel that, and just
100%, yeah,
correct. Okay, and you feel that. Native people there, the reason there's a disproportionate population is because you feel that they are at fault in committing.
You know what? I'll put it out there. I am. There's a lot of Native people committing crime here, and you can say maybe they don't have. Yeah, please jump in. We have a hand up.
Hi, nice to meet you, sir.
Hi,
Eric. We love Canada, and this should be proof to you that Canada is not better than America. That statement right there. So let me say this, because we have this weird thing in America that somehow the Canadians will lead us to the utopian of democracy, and this is telling me everything I need to know that is in fact not the case. So one thing that I just like to pick up, we have to talk about something called criminality. So when you have statements that are basically like there's a disproportionate number of people who are being incarcerated from this group, that's because these people commit more crimes. That inherently criminalizes and almost pathologizes the activities of specifically Black and brown people, whereas we do not white people. So let me say that in a simpler way. There's something called wage theft. Wage theft is illegal, and it's probably happened to every single person in this chat group. You ever got a short paycheck from your employer? You ever actually didn't get all the money they're supposed to pay you?
Of course.
Yeah, that's theft. That is illegal. And technically, you as an employee, if they don't correct that, you can go and seek a judgment to get your money as well as damages. This is a real thing. However, what does it require? You, agency as a person, okay, you then have to go to the district attorney and they have to agree to prosecute for that. And then if they agree, which they typically don't because these are small cases, we're talking about a few $100s, that makes no difference to the criminal justice system and white supremacists, but makes a whole lot of difference to me in my paycheck.
That's right.
So in the event that you do go through this and you get your money back, we're talking months, years, you probably don't have the money, the time, and the resource to go through that. But it's illegal. But what happens if you take $20 at the cash register at work?
Right.
Yes, I'm going to jail. So I have to be very pointed when I say, like, I don't want that message getting out there. Criminality, what we consider crime, is always defined and has been defined by white supremacist undertakings. What is a crime for one is not a crime for another person. So we talk about inherent criminality, when we talk about proclivity in certain people, namely Black and brown people, to be criminals or to commit crimes, you have to realize that that is pathologizing, aka it is making up a whole narrative that is not true about these people. So I promise you, if we were to dig into a little data, you would see, in fact, that there are not, in fact, more criminals as it relates to more Native people being criminals. What you will find is that what we classify as criminality, what we say is illegal and is bad when it comes to the actions of Black and brown people, is just fun and games or a mistake when it comes to white people. So I really want to right off the bat just swing and reject the shit out of that.
Hold on, pull back. So Eric, sure. when she says that, what is your response to that?
I have to agree. Sure. Definitely the justice system is biased. Absolutely.
The only reason I asked
I still think I don't think it's I don't think when you get into like corporate crime like that, it's not so much a racial issue. I don't think it's only white people stealing from their employees. That's you could have anyone running a company who can nick money from their employees and get away with it. That's circumstantial. That's not racial.
It's very racial because you have to look at who becomes proprietors, who's owning businesses, who's allowed to have capital, right? Who's allowed to have access to buildings, brick and mortars. Literally, credit scores don't matter to anyone but poor people. They will loan a rich person $1 million after they flush it down the toilet, put it up their nose, doing an 8-ball of coke, and still give them more money. So again,
you're automatically assuming that rich person is white. You're initially saying anyone who isn't right can't be that rich person and can't be that criminal.
Because statistically speaking, who's going to own capital, have a business where they have employees? There are literally whole models of business that depend on wage.
You're now doing exactly what you said I did. You're now doing exactly what I said. You're saying Black people can't have the same opportunities.
That's exactly what
I'm saying. And they can't be a criminal.
I'm not saying we can't be a criminal. Okay, so this is what we call
and a Black person in a position of power can't do something wrong.
Hold on.
This is called a strawman argument.
Hold on one second. I'm gonna pull you back. Hold on. The only reason I'm pulling you back is because the goal here is so that we hear each other, right?
You're right. I apologize.
No, it's not just you. It's not just you. It's both.
I'm over here aghast.
Now the goal here is that we hear each other. So what Kiana's saying and what Eric is saying, they have their opinions and they're basing it on facts. And one may be felt right, one may be felt, but the goal is to be, it's about listening and understanding. Damn it.
Cool.
All right.
I'm also hyped because I'm literally, my best friend is next door and she's a criminal defense attorney. So we have these
conversations. I get that, Kiana. But for one, he's in a whole different country than ours, right? But
again, our country is still affected by racism, so that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
Canada is not the paradise. It's not a utopia like we build it up.
That's not what
Trump's
he's saying.
America sucks, so we going to Canada. What I'm trying to say is we often keep this.
So you're doing it right now.
Okay, go ahead.
But I'm saying 100%. We have Rob Ford. You have Marion Barry. Same guy, different color. It's boom.
Okay, hold on. Now
you can still be a crack smoking mayor. It doesn't matter what. It's got nothing to do with race.
And I think it's interesting that you say that, because the idea is it does have to do with race, because what she's saying is proportions are for every Marion Barry, there's probably, who was the other guy you mentioned, Keon? There's like 50 of the other guy, because you can only probably name Marion Barry. I'm not saying that one person or another. What I'm saying is, when it comes to crimes committed, a lot of times the statistics that we find are connected to convictions, which has to do with who people are targeting. If you're going to black neighborhoods looking, if people looked for these other acts of criminality the way they look for people shoplifting and freaking taking, having a counterfeit $20 bill, you would see a difference in the crime. And it's just interesting to me that that sentiment is also a sentiment that is in Canada, because I'm very intrigued by that.
Well, you can skew statistics in any way to do that too, though. If you go to find if you're directly looking at people stealing Girl Scout cookies, and you're gonna have to go to communities where Girl Scouts are. We can pull and pick and choose any statistic we want to make our argument valid.
Okay. So
there's no Girl Scouts in my community. No one's stealing Girl Scout cookies. You go one block over, maybe they are. Statistics are so misleading now and so skewed. None of us really know what's the truth behind them.
And that's where we agree. Statistics are skewed, and you can make your own narrative, and that's a great thing, because you don't always have to bring a book to your audience, Duryea. The book is called White Methods, White Logic, okay? And one of the authors, Edward Bonilla Silva, speaks specifically about this. When we look at statistical analysis, how we do it, sample sets, how they do those cross analyses of statistics, again, it overwhelmingly benefits white narrative. So thank you. We are very much in agreement. Check that out at your local
library. If there were no white people, if there were a community exclusively with no white people, there would be no crime, and there would be no.
Hold on 1 second, Eric. You got to pull back from the mic so we can understand you.
Sorry, you're trying to say that what I'm hearing is that if there were no white people, these crimes wouldn't exist.
That's not anywhere near anything what we're talking about. So thank you for an irrelevant sidebar. Cool.
No. What he's saying, what she is saying. I'm trying to say what you're saying. What she is not saying, she's not saying that. She's saying that because of white supremacy, not white people, but the white supremacy, which is this idea that, okay, Kudanya wants to speak, so I'm gonna let him speak.
Yeah. I'll give you a different perspective about India, because India is a huge country, huge population, and a lot of poverty also. So a lot of people. Here, we don't have either a white or black or whatever you call it. It's a lot of homogeneous population. But here, the justice system, it's a costly affair. So it's all about, you can say, a new system of haves and have-nots. So if you are somebody from a poor background, whoever you are, justice is a costly affair in India, and because it runs through a lot many years. So that will be difficult to come by, whoever you are. But if you are a rich person, you can hire top lawyers. You can have, So the problem here is that that you will get justice. It's not that justice is not transparent, but yes, there is a lot of talk of transparency. But if you are a rich person, you can actually fight for it. And if you are not that rich, or if you are poor, it will be very difficult to come up. So that is from another part of the world, and that is why a lot of talks, even under in police reforms, there's a lot of talk, because police perhaps will treat a poor person differently, and his application of law will be a bit different than it will be for a poor person. So here it's a different sort of a wind blowing, and I guess in coming times, the government will be forced to look at more judicial reforms, more police reforms. Because if we don't do that, we are also looking at very difficult times in the coming years, because the population is growing. It's a 1.335 billion people here, and with every day it's rising. We got so many Canadas in here in India. We add a Canada perhaps every 10 years in just one of our states. Same about So here it is more about haves and have-nots. The people who have money, you get justice, you can fight it out. If you are not, so you will find that the same crime, if a person from a rich background does, he can fight it out. He can go to a better court. Perhaps the recourse to him will be that he may get bail. But many people who are in jail, perhaps or are just accused, but they are in jail, they will not be able to file even their bail applications. So not that the justice system is stopping them, but to avail of that recourse, that justice system, you need to have money, because you need to have a lawyer, and you need to have people who can fight for you.
And that's the same here. Here it's and I think it's interesting. The classism is an issue here, but the classism just so happens to also be associated with being white, because generally who has most of the wealth in this country are white people. So when it comes to court, like there's some people who go to court for the same exact crime, they'll probably both get off, right? But if one of them doesn't have any money, he's going to sit in jail until his court case. So say, for instance, a guy goes to jail for freaking drunk driving, right? Now he doesn't have any money. This one guy, the other guy does. So this guy, this guy pays his bail. Guy on the right, guy on the left does not. Guy on the left stays in jail for 12 months, and then they let him go when they drop his charges. Guy who had money doesn't stay in jail at all, but more than that one night. And no, he doesn't get that time back. The guy who sat in jail for 12 months, he doesn't get that time back. It's like, all right, you're free to go. Go ahead.
In Canada, you get double time served.
Even in the George Floyd case, he was treated perhaps differently than perhaps it would have been from anybody else. So yes, that was the people in India are very much aware of that, and here also the campaign Black Lives Matter obviously impacted a lot of people, and people were part of it in their own manner. So
what is it like for India right now? I mean, I'm curious as to how other countries are responding to Black Lives Matter.
In India, yes, people are very, very aware. You see, even if we are, a lot of people are not that well off. A lot of people are very well educated, and people are aware of what is happening outside India, and especially about the US. Not only Hollywood impacts us, Mr. Trump also impacts what he's saying, what he. So we keenly watch out, because a lot of Indians are there in the US, and a lot of Indians are are holding good positions of responsibility there. The Google head, he is also an Indian. A lot of many other countries. So we have a lot of business with the US. We have a lot of cooperation with the US. Even on every aspect, I guess, US and India are close allies. You see, India is the biggest democracy in the world, is the largest democracy in the world, and the US is the biggest democracy in the world. And so a lot of movement is there. Mr. Trump came in just a few months back to India, and so you see, for us, everything that is happening in the US, we do watch it very keenly. And I guess as days go by, there will be much more and better cooperation between the two countries on different aspects, because both are big democracies.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Hope wants to get in here really quick first.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. So, in regards to, I guess, how the BLM movement is kind of echoed here in New Zealand, I just wanted to speak to that quickly. First off, I know I acknowledged it privately in our chat here, but I just wanted to again shout out to Eric for having an honest, perspective and sharing your point of view with us, bro. Because I can imagine, like I could tell in your voice and the way you enunciated, it wasn't something that you were super comfortable with doing off the bat. So I just want to acknowledge your bravery in attacking that conversation, man. That's amazing. And also, and Kiana as well for being passionate about your beliefs and what you want to do. That's awesome. It's awesome to see people standing up for what they believe. to quickly into the BLM stuff and how it is here in New Zealand. So we had our own protests and things like that take place here in New Zealand. I'm not too sure if you were aware of that, but there were mass gatherings in our capital city, and then also in some of our larger centres, like up in Auckland, which is probably the most well-known place when you speak about New Zealand abroad, because that's where all the concerts and things happen, and it's the biggest city in New Zealand, so that's where everyone comes. So we had protests and all that sort of thing here too, and a big thing that I guess wanted to highlight or kind of just talk about is like the BLM movement. I feel anyway, and I can't speak on behalf of all minorities residing in New Zealand, but like we relate to that a lot. Like for the BLM movement, it wasn't just about obviously Black Lives Matter, but it was coming from a place that like there are some obvious systems. Well, to me, they're obvious. There's some obvious systems in place which oppress minorities, and so that movement or that protest was a stand up to that system. Whereas, like, a lot of people are saying things or trying to perpetuate things in New Zealand, like, what are you doing that for? You're not even Black. Why do you care? And it's easy to go, well, I guess on the surface, yeah, you're right. But I understand what it's like to have a system work against you. I know what it's like to feel like a bit of an alien in your own country. And we're all banding together and we're all standing up to this because it's bullshit. So we're not trying to rally behind a fad or an Instagram hashtag or whatever you want to call it. We really feel this, and this really resonates with us. So that is why we're standing up and we're marching too, because we're sick of it and we know that it happens and we want something done about it. So I just wanted to speak into that a little bit.
Can I ask you a question before Kiana gets in here? So you all are marching for what's happening here in America.
I think what happened in America might have triggered it, but when I really look back at it, I think we're marching for equality, which I think tell me if I'm wrong, but if you look at the BLM movement, I think that's what that cause is ultimately about too, right? Is to be treated fairly and equally. Am I right or wrong there? Feel free to correct me.
Actually, and any one of my counterparts, please hop in. I think for me personally, the Black Lives Matter movement is about equality, but we've been screaming about equality for a while. This to me is about something beyond equality. This is about visibility and awareness. That's what it's about to me. It's about people who've been so often saying that racism was not a thing. This isn't happening to you. And even Eric, and thank you both for being so passionate. I think it's hard for certain people to see that this racism is there. And when I'm watching someone like Eric say the things that he says, I see it's like that's how he views things. And for me, because I live the life I live, I'm like, how can you not see this? And so,
I'm not saying I don't see it. Don't mistake that. I absolutely see that it's. I'm not saying it's not happening. Okay. I'm saying there's a lot of people saying that they don't see it. When I think everyone sees it, people don't want to admit it, and that's the difference there. I'm just saying it's.
Go ahead.
And the biggest problem is not people denying it, but people just accepting that it's a way of life, which I see a lot of. I don't think anyone's denying there's racism going on in the U.S., but there's thousands of people just not doing anything about it. Because, like you said, they see it as it's not their problem, or that's the biggest disconnect right now. Is we've talked about it on my 2 years now. Is just young Black men. It's illegal to be Black and running in the U.S. right now, apparently, because it's just a number of young Black people just getting shot just because they happen to be on the street. I've got a friend in Minneapolis right now who says he walks down the street. I'm sorry, Maryland. He's in Maryland, and he's scared to walk down the street. If he gets stopped by a cop, there's a 50% chance he walks away. I've never had to feel that in my life. I've never once that's crossed my mind. But I think a lot of people, it's not the cops doing the shootings that are really the problem right now. It's everyone else on the forces that are just letting it happen. And that's the thing. People have to start admitting that it's going on before you can work on really solving it.
Yeah, and that's essentially what we're talking about. Kiana, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question, and for please tell me how to say your name again. Kun
Kudanya.
Kudanya.
Yes.
Kudanya. I wanted to
Cool name.
in regards to BLM, so and being in India. So and this is coming from like a charlatan's worth of knowledge, so please correct me, but um I'm going to start by saying, if you're not watching Indian matchmaking on Netflix, you are missing out. And then two, because in watching that film, I mean, not the series on Netflix, something that I already knew, like India has a very deeply entrenched caste system. And in regard to like that, like you were saying with there are certain elites and they have money and they have the ability to move in different ways and they're not subject to the same sort of laws as everyone. You have everyone from, the highest people in the caste system to untouchables at the bottom of the caste system. And so when I think about the people, because this caste system, in sort of my knowledge, is also very heavily built around colorism, which again is the root of racism. And I'm wondering, sort of, is that message resonating with people in India as far as your, darker skinned Indian people who, in sort of my reading, have a lot of the similar because of the caste system and the color system that's built on, um, are having a lot of similar outcomes in terms of like their education, their ability to have jobs. I feel like there's a large parallel in that. Do you feel that any of that has played into the resonance of BLM in India at all?
Yes, yes, it's a hugely. See, who will understand about racism better than India? We were under British rule for 200 years. 200 years, and still Indians have not forgotten where there were boards outside restaurants were saying that dogs and Indians not allowed inside, So, and in fact, Mahatma Gandhi, he was in South Africa, so from there he was, this particular thing only inspired him when he faced discrimination when he came down to India. So that is one particular. We Indians are very much aware of what racism is all about, and a lot of people travel outside. So they time to time, everybody in their own individual way, they do come across this. So it's a fact of life. As for the so that I guess uh, explains some part of your question. Second thing is Indians were very much part of this movement. We all know what happened to George Floyd. We knew and we were very we're aghast that such a thing can happen, that a person cannot breathe the way you just pin him down on the road. That is not acceptable in any form of society, and that has rankled us as in any other part of the world. There were protests. People are very much aware of it, and because of the COVID lockdown, perhaps we did not come out on the roads as we would have wanted to, but it is very what you call people are very much aware of it, and people do understand about this, and they stand for the rights of every human being. That is, it should be, it should be. As for black, obviously we see, if you see it from that perspective, we find that we understand that part much better than anybody else in the world, I guess, because we don't find ourselves from we have been oppressed for so many years. So we will be in a better position to empathize if there is any sort of discrimination with anybody. And we stand by, a lot of people stand by, but even newspapers, they don't have to take a particular line. It's a fact that if there is a discrimination, people ought to rise against it. As for the caste system, that's a reality. That's a reality. But you see, when we became independent in 1947, our constitution provided for more than 20% reservation to to the backward caste. So that and that and that continues even today. In fact, in the early 90s, more 27% reservation was added, so that people who are backward in the economic sense also, they can also get some sort of protection under constitution, they can get better access to jobs. So there is another movement now which is growing up, that they are saying that people who have already availed of that particular benefit should not be given that benefit. But still India is continuing with that. So we are a nation in churning. We are a nation which is making progress, but we are also a nation which is, adding so many people every year. So we are fighting that battle. But yes, we are very much aware of whatever is happening to the world. And I must say that we have faced racism. We do face it even today. A lot of even our top actors, if they go outside, it became a big news that they were, asked to take off their shoes and all. But we also do realize that the world has changed since 9/11. So a lot of things are happening, even everywhere, and we are very much part of that discussion.
I have a question actually, and it's kind of I'm not like it, but I appreciate what you're saying about the parallels between Black Americans' oppression, and really my eyes have been open to, Indian people's oppression, and also the indigenous people in New Zealand. I never really realized it was, I realized it, but hearing it from your mouths is, especially seeing you right here in front of me and seeing, it was a little mind blowing. But I wanted to say, I'm curious as to how you all view Black Americans as, because I was talking to a friend of mine and she was living overseas, and she basically said that Black Americans are only portrayed either as like Will Smith, Halle Berry kind of people, or like criminals. And so I'm curious as to know if that's true, honestly.
No,
I certainly don't think that's true in Canada by any means.
Okay. I would get that it wouldn't be that way in Canada. I think Canada's a little too close to home, but you all are across the pond. So what about you all?
You're asking?
Yes. We said we're going to talk about it before. At least, you said we're going to talk about it earlier. At least talk about the culture and how so much of not foreign, but how'd you put it before, Huepa?
Yeah, I guess like just the so you want to know what the, I guess, perspective is here in New Zealand of Black Americans? Am I hearing that right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's, for me, I don't pay attention to the media in a way like I take it to heart, because I know what it's like to have your people portrayed in certain lights. So just to add context, like I was a radio journalist for 8 years, and I got out of the system because I disagreed with some of the things that were going on. Like if I use for an example, we've probably one of our most famous Kiwis right now goes by the name of Taika Waititi. So he is the director of the last couple of Thor movies, and also the Deadpool movies. And he's quite massive. So one big thing that I noticed is that when he is doing well, and I should try and find the links quickly and post them here or something, but when he is doing well, he is celebrated as a, so for example, when he smashed the box office with Thor Ragnarok, they said, New Zealand director smashes box office. When he came out and openly said aloud that New Zealand is racist, that we have racist things going on, it said, Māori director says New Zealand is racist. So when he's doing great, he's a New Zealander. When he's not doing great, he's a Māori. So, and that's just one example. So I guess to add context as to what you're talking about, while there are certain things I think that are portrayed in certain lights, I know not to take that to heart, because I know what that feels like, and I know how you get painted in a certain way. And as I've mentioned, my build up to the show, my intro, like I've traveled a bit, so I've gotten to know people face to face, so I know not to believe what you see in the media. Right. But to answer the question, like, are things portrayed in a certain way? Yeah, I'd say so.
What way would that be?
I would say that there are the two extremes, the polar opposites that you mentioned. You're either Will Smith or LeBron James, or you're a hustler or a thug. And that is what we see. But I know not to take that to heart, or to take that as the perspectives, because that's what they do to us too.
Right.
a light-skinned basketball player, or
right. So
right, you know, and like so something that happens in New Zealand, for example. So like, you know, like if I use like LeBron James, for example, like we want you to play ball, but just shut up and dribble, right? Like we don't want you to talk about anything else. We just want you to play ball. That happens with us too. So when you come to New Zealand, especially if you're a celebrity or whatever, you might get welcomed with what's called a porfity or a haka. So if anyone's that's seen the All Blacks play, our rugby team, or anything like that, you'll see this thing called the haka. Or if you've seen Aquaman, it's the thing that he does as he's priming himself up. So it's a traditional war dance, or it's done at welcome ceremonies. If you just Google haka, you'll probably fall in love with it. So that is a similar thing. Like we don't want you to be at the forefront. We don't want you to be a part of, you know, our council system. If I use that for an example, I spoke before about our local government. We don't want to give you a seat at the table here, but can you please go to the airport and use your traditional welcome to welcome in these celebrities? So
everybody loves Black people until it's time to treat Black people like humans. What is that? Is that Richard Pryor? Everybody want to be a nigga until it's time to be a nigga? That's exactly what it is. They will sell you black, again, Black is king. They will sell you blackness on a Disney Plus subscription, and white people will go, yes, Black people. I know, Ceci. And then at the end of the day, we're like, okay, but can we be free? They're like, no, we're gonna take Aunt Jemima off a bottle. Okay, but can I be a full citizen of the United States? They're like, no. We gonna paint Black Lives Matter on the sidewalk in DC. Okay, that's cool though, but can we please?
Well, to be fair, Black Lives Matter on the sidewalk was painted by the mayor.
I'm just saying, I don't care. Did you cut people checks? Did you go and make housing opportunities for people? I don't care about. They will try to tell you.
Black Lives Matter is the #1 sponsor for the NBA.
Why is that material for what I'm saying? Why is that material? Why is that material?
Black Lives Matter. Is that a fact, or is that you just being funny because you're a comedian?
I mean, even if it's true,
no,
why
that's
is that
a fact.
material? Okay, so
Black Lives Matter is the #1 sponsor of the NBA, so they're not cutting you checks; they're cutting the NBA checks. So the movement itself is already losing its focus.
No, let's be clear. The movement itself is not the end all be all, because there's people involved in that movement, but the movement is taking on its own life. So you can't tell me that I'm sponsoring NBA because I support Black Lives Matter.
That's also not what I was talking about. So I appreciate that commentary, but that was not germane to what I was discussing. I was saying in the fact
but you're saying they're not cutting you checks. Neither's your own movement.
Oh, okay. So
they're cutting the NBA checks.
Calm down. My movement's responsibility is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the responsibility of the government under which I live and under which I was born to the liberty and pursuit of happiness and equity. So thank you for the distraction, but I'm going to bring it back over here, which is what I'm saying.
And that involves them cutting you checks.
Well,
because I believe in direct cash payments to the descendants of slaves, as should be afforded, because we've given reparations to white people for being white. The Northwest Ordinance. I'm not here to take y'all a history lesson. Y'all got Google. But if we look, we can literally go down in history where the American government has literally given white people reparations just for being white. Not recompense, not to undo any past injustice, which is what Black people are demanding, which is what Indigenous New Zealanders and Australians are demanding. We're not talking about. So again, thank you for the distraction. But let's bring it on back home, which in the sense of what I was getting at to go along with HEPA, is I'm saying that there is this constant capitalizing on Black culture, but you don't want the Black people that accompany it. And so you're giving a symbolism without substance. So that's my point, and I'm going to leave it at that. So if you want to now go on another course to talk about whatever that is.
What you said was you said you don't care. Didn't cut you checks. That was your
right.
They didn't cut you checks.
The American government. Thank you.
Comment on that. Let me comment on that too, Kiana. With the American government, now you have to understand the Black Lives Matter movement didn't come up with these philosophies. They didn't. This is stuff we've been talking about, like the movement itself, because people like to get what she's calling them distractions. And please just try to hear me out. She's calling them distractions because they distract you from the point, as if to say that because Black Lives Matter is skewed in this way or wrong in that way, it then makes the point that they're making incorrect and invalid. But no matter how, because people are involved, so it's not going to be a perfect movement, but it doesn't change the truth of the matter, which is that there are these systems in place where when people who are oppressed try to rise above that oppression, we are given things that do us no good, that appease us for that moment, i.e., a sidewalk painted in our names. That doesn't stop the next guy from getting shot by the police, though. That's what we're saying. So when she says she doesn't care, she wants you to write me a check because in this capitalist society,
neither would money. And her point was,
let me explain, because money
write a check.
Let me explain.
What she said.
Right. Let me explain why that isn't.
Money wouldn't stop you from being shot.
I'm trying to. Okay, I'm going to explain why it would. I'm going to explain why it would. So essentially,
that's up from the mic.
Let me hit it to him. We live in a capitalistic society. This society, as well as most societies in the world, absolutely run on money. That's where the power is. And Black people, indigenous people, a lot of times people who grew up under oppression, they don't have what we call generational wealth, where after I die, the next 7 generations of my family are going to be able to affect policies by politicians, by stock, by companies, publicly start. We can't do that. No Black people. There are Black people who have it, but the percentage, remembering that Black people are only 13% of the entire population. The percentage of Black people who can actually do that, who can actually have that generational wealth, is not big enough to affect the kind of change that needs to happen to where Ahmaud Arbery doesn't happen, Sandra Bland doesn't happen, because really nobody should worry about their children being murdered by the police. Nobody, period. And that is going to come through money, because that's what runs all of these institutions. When she says cut me a check, she's not just saying her personally, I want some money to go buy me some shoes. What she's saying is, I want the 40 acres and a mule that was promised to us so that we could create generational wealth, which white people had 400 years to establish. And we've been expected to establish in the last 60.
And let's be very clear. If somebody tells you that this movement is...
That's what I'm saying, Eric.
Yeah.
Oh,
I understand. Tells you
that
this movement is not about money and making restitution, they are lying to you. Because the whole reason that racism existed was for economic extraction. So it only makes sense that we would be seeking that type of restitution. If people are literally sitting here trying to sell you that Black Lives Matter is just about inalienable rights, they're lying to you. I want a cash check. Grandma want a cash check. Grandma, and them want a cash check. Exactly for the reasons that.
But it's not only just about money, too.
But it is a fundamental aspect. The way that it is fundamental, and we would be remiss. And again, white supremacists will call you greedy for wanting what you're owed, and they want you to forgive what they owe you. And I think it's imperative that we keep that at the forefront, along with reform for our criminal justice system, abolition, fair housing, equity of opportunity. I think it's extremely important to center monetary recompense at this platform, because if you don't, you're missing a key part and an important element of why this matters. Y'all I got my Sauv Blanc, and that's why I'm over here
drinking, y'all.
Oh, y'all, I'm gonna have to leave y'all in about 20 minutes because I'm drinking. I gotta go to work.
Wrap it up here soon. I do have a few questions. So before we did our show, I went on Facebook and I said to all my friends, I said, listen, we're doing this multinational mingle, and I really wanted to know, like, what are some questions that they wanted to ask the group. So I'm gonna ask a few. The first question comes from Emily Dotson Corderoni. It's a little bit wordy. She says, I'd be curious what people from other nations think about the U.S.'s relationship with the United Nations, and what, if anything, they think the U.S.'s role should be in policing worldwide oppression.
Of course it is.
I know that, of course, it's our question. We have all the money and resources, so should we get involved or should we mind our own business? Especially considering our track record of only getting involved when there is financial benefit for the U.S. I wonder what foreigners make of our foreign policy.
Somebody said the reason the United Nations is
headquartered in New York.
Wait, say it again, Eric.
I said there's a reason the United Nations is headquartered in New York.
And what you say, Kiana?
I said, somebody said, fuck the IMF. They said, fuck the IMF, and this question is what they did. I'm stressed.
Oh, okay. What's the answer? I would love to
It's
know.
it's the International Monetary Fund, and so what they do is.
No. I know what IMF is.
Oh, okay, there you go.
But I want to know the answer to this question. And I would like everybody to answer, not just the guests to the panel. Everyone.
Oh, I'm not going to answer that.
I'll start. I personally think we should start minding our own business a lot more. I feel like but the difficulty is this. I actually spoke to someone who was from Liberia last year, and they basically said to me that no, it's our responsibility to fix those kind of problems. And I'm not saying, and that's how he felt. And it kind of surprised me because I'm like, well, why? And he was like, y'all are America. You're a superpower. Y'all should be doing those kind of things. But I feel like that creates such a touchy situation because then you have, well, what if a president gets into office who really does not want to have a war, right? And he wants to pull the troops out. But at that point, they're so invested in that conflict, they can't do it. What's the safe way? What do you do about that? Unless you just stop getting into those conflicts to begin with altogether.
I think anyone around the world turning to the U.S. for help is kind of like handing a pyromaniac a Zippo and going, here, you deal with it.
I mean, okay. I mean, so is that to speak to, like, you feel like Americans are what, too rowdy? I won't take offense.
Fucking mercenaries.
If I'm looking for, I don't know. If I was looking for advice on bankruptcy, I'd go to Donald Trump. Absolutely. Other than that, like, you guys got to clean up your own country before you can start. I think that's half of what you do is distract the world by attacking other countries so you don't have to deal with what's going on in your own.
But can I ask you a question? When you say you do understand that all Americans don't follow Trump's narrative, right?
Of course, absolutely.
Because sometimes I honestly worry that there are people who abroad who don't know that. They see that representation, whoever's in office or whatever's being broadcast in the news, and they feel all Americans have this idea of other countries and they're this way toward other people. And that's not the truth of our country. And so I'm just curious, is it like that in India? Is that the perception of?
I think. No, go. I wanted to say, I think now more than ever, it's becoming evident that you guys are 50 states rather than one united confederacy. The divide between the states is going more and more.
Not the confederacy.
Not confederate. We are not
confederate. We are not a confederation of states, sir.
You can laugh all you want.
That's a no for me.
As in a federation that works together. We're gonna play semantics. I mean, you look like 50 very separate states right now, and that's probably working in your benefit.
South Carolina. Thank you for that.
Okay. What do you think?
Okay.
Anybody else want to chime in on that one? Because I'd love to hear your opinions.
I was a big fan of that Confederacy bomb.
Yeah,
that was awesome. I knew that'd get a reaction.
First of all, you can't. Call it a Confederacy.
Oh yeah, bro. I can't even go.
But yeah, just to
down in South Georgia without being like.
just to back up the bro Eric and what he said, like, yeah, for sure, like that whole "we are one" thing for America couldn't be more distant from memory right now. Like, it is. Like, we definitely seen you all as 50 states in terms of, like, and also to speak to the point earlier about perceiving America or perceiving Trump to speak on behalf of America. No, we know that ain't the case. We know that he's, like, to a lot of people here in New Zealand, he's the dude on TV before he's the president, you know. So we know that a person like that doesn't speak on behalf of a country worldwide. But yeah, it's interesting to watch. Like, I mean, with the world policing thing, yeah, 100%. Like, I think you should clear your own stuff up first and worry about what you got going on. I hadn't even thought of it as being a distraction or like a coping mechanism to not wanting to sort out your own shit first. I'd never seen it like that, but that makes complete sense now that, I think it was Eric that mentioned that, like, now that I think about it, it does kind of come across that way. But like, this is the juxtaposition that I'm living in. Yes, I believe that America should look after themselves first and maybe pull back on the whole Team America World Police thing. But I feel like if we were to get in some shit down here in little old New Zealand, they'd be on the hotline to you guys for some help straight away. So I feel it's a bit hypocritical of me. Like, yeah, look after you. I feel like I'm saying, yeah, look after yourselves. But if it's us, please help. I feel like that's what I'm kind of saying. And that's probably, to be honest, really how I feel, because we are so tiny.
Mind your business, baby girl. That's
okay.
Mind your business, baby girl.
Well, I've got two more questions. So the other question, the second question is,
where'd Jessica go?
The second question is, how well do you think America has handled the pandemic? I know what Hep is going to say. Look.
No, I was actually going to say, can we go back though? Because I'd be interested in the world policing question from
Kudanya?
From that part of the world. So is that cool? Can we go back quickly?
Yes, absolutely.
Kudanya, can you speak to that, please, brother?
Yeah. We are still watching. But one thing surprised me was that Mr. Trump announced before itself that at least 1 lakh, 100,000 people will die because of this. So that was a bit strange to count your deaths even before you start treating them. In India, we are still fighting the pandemic. We have reached around 40,000 deaths, but obviously nobody can tell beforehand that we are taking into account even from the beginning that 100,000 people will die because of this pandemic. So it's like you are running. You are trying to reach that particular target. So that's not in good taste, personally, if you ask me. But as a country, you see, we know that America has a very good healthcare system that is irrespective of whoever is in government. And so you see, we Indians look at the US at two different levels. One is at the government level, and one is as a land of opportunities. As a land of opportunities, it is the place for us to go, and obviously Canada also. But yes, US has its own thing because of a lot of a lot of companies also, both ways. A lot of software companies are doing a lot of work out there. So a lot of people keep on going to the US. Then there is the NYSE. Indian stock exchanges are so much attuned to the New York Stock Exchange. It's like the Dow Jones Index, and so you see, in that ways we are very much part of that whole system, the whole global system. That's what. Then the dollar is there. But in terms of what as a land of opportunities, we look at it in the way we would look at any other country. And there are a lot of similarities also. We find that there are a lot of problems also, and it's not the life in the US is not all what Hollywood shows us. It's not. Everybody, there are poor people, we know that. There are ghettos. It's all not bright lights, even in the US, just like it is anywhere else. So with time, with more better communication, with more systems in place, we get to know more about the life of people, general people in the US. And you see, the quality of perception will change and is changing fast, and is becoming more real as day goes by. Earlier, you see, just like the Gulf War, everybody was seeing what CNN was showing, but today it's not like that. People can read between the lines, read more stories. What's the reality of everything down there.
Kudanya, could you also give us your perception on the last question about America over policing the world?
Well, you see, where it all depends on what way you want to get involved with the US. Because as business partners, you would certainly want to do business, because a lot of money comes from the US companies, from US, a lot of hedge funds, a lot of, even in terms of technology. So that thing you have to look at the US because of a lot of innovations happening there. and a lot of people from outside also stepping there and playing their own part in innovations and all. Even in what you call in a vaccine for the COVID thing that is going right now. So that's the way you are looking at that. But in terms of US getting involved in outside world, it all depends. And you see the history how US got involved in the Second World War. Then there was the Cold War. So if now the world is changing after that with the unification of Germany, afterwards the world is changing, and you see the status of US is also changing. But in case of India also, when we had a war with Pakistan in 1971, then US was looking at India differently, and it was supporting Pakistan, and they were trying to help Pakistan in a way. But we fought the war. US did not get involved directly. But now when we are in tensions with China at the borders, so US is playing different roles. So at this point in time, we know that we cannot fight China in the long haul, in the long run, with the present level of our economy, about our defense. But we can give them a good fight. But we would certainly like at that point in time that the US is there with us. So it all depends on which country has what equation with the US, and in what level of what you call their involvement. In Afghanistan, you see, it was a different story altogether. US had not gone there for several years, but then after the 9/11, US, it was a policy also. And I guess a lot of Americans also wanted that justice, that people, that the government goes and looks out for whoever had perpetrated that crime. So every time we cannot, if we want to see it in black and white, we'll not get the answer.
So actually, we've actually hit a lot of our topics today. I did have one more question I wanted to ask, and I really wanted to get Hepa's take on the pandemic. So we're gonna hold off on that. But Kiana has to run, so I want to get her final thoughts in really quick before she has to go. So can you step back in, Kiana?
Yes, I'm right back in here. And I was like, this is why you should. So in an ironic twist, this little IPO honey, the headquarters is initially in Sydney. So I actually have to get on a Australian call in an ironic twist. Shout out to Sydney. So it's just like showing my face on the video camera on. But I do want to say, just in terms of my final thoughts, I really enjoy being here. It's always a great space to be. I get a little fired up. My passion is very clear, and I always appreciate Duryea for just bringing me back down, because I'd be ready to fight. Okay, I'd be ready to fight. For my beliefs, not people, not this space. I can't fight. I got in one fight. I won. It was Chancellor Shelton. No, we didn't go to elementary school together. I whooped that nigga ass. No relation. But all I'm saying, and my final thoughts about this is, I think the world is such a spectacularly global and beautiful place. And I feel fortunate that I've been able to experience a lot of it, travel it, but also glean friendships and relationships that give me insight into these things. And essentially, I've lived in different places for a number of time. And when I think about America and sort of what is our perception, what are we doing for the world? It is not that we are leaders. It is not this imperialistic thing that we keep doing, like Peace Corps, USA, telling people what to do in their own backyard. Like, that to me is not the embodiment of like what America is. For me, in terms of, it's really the promise of what America could be.
Could be, yes.
And we're not there, and we haven't reached that potential. And I'm so very serious about the things that are wrong, and it is my duty as an American to critique it. It is my right as a person living in this body who is on this land, who is a part of stolen people on stolen land in America, to have these difficult conversations and to really challenge the paradigm that has been made. Because I do believe the belief system of America is that we are all created equal. And while they only meant white landed gentry, the gag's on y'all because you said everybody. And here we are. And so that's really what I think going into this is It's more conversations like these. It's understanding a global viewpoint. It's hearing the wonderful words from our partners in this session who are abroad and living it and understanding the intersections of who we are, because it's not just, it is America and that's my stake in it, but globalism has made it our stake. Everything that's happening in our world is rippling and interconnected. And so it's just my hope that we can keep that lens while still tending to our specific and special needs, particularly for me, the needs of Black people, Black Americans living in America, but then also Black people living all across the world, because we are the diaspora. We everywhere. Can't get rid of us. Free Palestine, all of that. So that's great. I got to go jump on this call to Sydney, honey. I got to talk to some.
Love you. Talk to you later.
I love all of you.
So listen,
I miss you.
I know. It's good seeing you. Good catching up. You still
this is how we're gonna compile all this stuff into a quick final thought. So with your final thought, Huepa, I want you to give us your pandemic spiel and then go into your final thought, okay? And with the final thought, I want our international guests to. Someone asked me to ask you your favorite musician from America, so I'll ask you all that, and then basically at the end we kind of do our final thought, which is basically what you take from the conversation or what you hope others have gained from the conversation.
Cool. Yeah. So just quickly with the pandemic thing and how America can be perceived as handling it, man. Honestly, it changes like every day, because I can say it loud. I'm an account manager for Shopify. So for those that don't know, Shopify is an e-commerce platform that's used all around the world. We've got 1 million plus users, and so I speak to people all over the globe about what's going on. And obviously, I have a lot of American clients. You speak to one person in one part of the country, they're doing fine. Life is good. You speak to another person in another part of the country, things are terrible. Things are horrible. They can't go anywhere. They can't do anything. So, man, it's hard. Like, how do I form an opinion of your handling of it when the responses are so vast and so polar? It's tough. Like, because obviously by that reaction, well, some parts are really good. By another reaction, some parts are really bad. In New Zealand, like we're out of lockdown, so we're around functioning. Everything, watching the world is like watching a bit of a movie, and it's crazy. It's like we're watching Z-Day on the TV. Like all the crazy things are happening with people being locked in homes, or like even watching. I suppose you could say our cousins over there in Australia. Victoria, the state of Victoria, has just gone onto a heavy lockdown. So things are absolutely bonkers there, and I think it's almost like prison. Like they're only allowed to leave their house for an hour of the day. Otherwise, they've been told to stay inside. And the military are kind of running the streets and keeping an eye on things. So things in Victoria are crazy right now. They've just gone into a 6-week lockdown. And like me, I'm functioning as normal. So, I mean, I know that New Zealand has been held up as like the benchmark for how to handle these things. But I mean, I think that's a little bit propaganda as well, because to typically get to New Zealand, you have to go through Australia. So Australia have really strict border control. So to go, so that's one pass you've got to check, and then you've got to come through us. So while we're getting all the praise for what we're doing, you could argue that Australia have actually done a big part in helping New Zealand out by making their border so strict that has then filtered into us. As well, we're only a very small population. So when you got smaller numbers to work with, and then secondly, we're on the opposite part of the world of where it's rumored or where it's claimed to have all started. So once again, that adds another filter. So I feel like we were set up for success. Of course, there's room for failure, but I think it's kind of been glorified a bit much about how well we've done, when in fact there were all these kind of natural things that were in place to help us get there. I've probably got some New Zealanders right now watching this thinking, what a hater, you're dogging us out. But man, that's just how I feel about it. But I mean, I'm happy to be here, of course. Everyone I speak to, they say to me, I wish I was there. You guys are so lucky. We wish we had been as strict as y'all with the way you left the borders. Yeah, that's how I feel.
I feel like if people just freaking stayed at the house, we'd be past this. But they didn't want to stay home.
Yeah.
So tell us your final thoughts. What would you like for people? And you have to give us a musician.
Cool. So I mean, yeah, my final thought is this has been amazing. Like I absolutely. So I want to address you guys quickly in my native tongue, because that's the most respectful thing you can do for people. No reira, anei te mihi ki koutou mo tō tūranga, tō noho tahi kiau I te ata nei, o I te rā nei, kia tautohi kōrero, kia whakawhiti whakaro, kia hāpai tēnei me te tangata. So all I've said there is I'm stoked to be sitting with you guys today and talking with you and building each other up as people and sharing these ideas and conversations, which aren't always easy, but I feel they're very necessary. Thank you very much for inviting me, because I'm absolutely privileged. A couple of things I take away from it is that you can have different opinions, but still be respectful. That's probably one. Two, I feel like no matter where you are in the world, there are always, like, I don't know what it is, but minorities around the world, man, we go through the same fight no matter where we are. Whether you want to say we're marginalized or what, I don't know what to call it, but there's a sense of camaraderie wherever I go in the world, wherever I speak to different minorities in the world. Our journeys aren't so different. In saying that, though, what I've learned here is that it feels like they're definitely, I guess, I mean, when you talk about oppression, there's in order for oppression to exist, there has to be people doing the oppressing, right? Or there has to be a system which oppresses. And I feel like those people that have had the privilege of those systems on their side, I feel like from what we're talking about, a lot of them are starting to wake up to that, and they're wanting to be a part of the undoing. Of course, not everyone. I'm not ignorant to think absolutely everyone, but a lot of those people. So this conversation today has been very heartwarming in the fact I feel like I hate using the term allies, because allies means, like, to me, allies is like low key and covert, like spies. These allies are actually standing loud and proud, and they're being allowed. So I would say they're partners more than allies. Favorite musician, man, this is
You're
so hard.
You're a DJ, so you gotta come with it.
It's hard.
Is it Beyonce? It's okay if it's Beyonce. You can go ahead and let us know now.
It's definitely not Beyonce, but like,
damn it.
Growing up as a kid, like I'm a product of hip hop, man. Like for me, hip hop is the music. Hip hop is the music of the oppressed, you know. So I related to a lot of those conversations when they talked about the struggles and things they were going through with family situations at home. So growing up, hip hop was definitely something that I used to help get me through those tougher days. And I could pick on anyone. Like,
you have to have a favorite.
Who's someone that I put on like all the time, no matter?
I'm surprised he's not just spitting somebody out.
Yeah, well, to be honest, like, and it's funny because I could get really into this, but if I was to pick on one person that's probably been highly influential in my upbringing and helping me get through those tough times, it would be Jay-Z.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say Jay-Z.
It would be Jay-Z, but that is slowly changing. Like, as I've grown up and I'm getting older, that's starting to change.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's EJ's favorite rapper. And I was like, bro, he's about to say Jay. I hope he does not say Jay-Z. Well, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Jigga man, Jigga fan.
That's a good pick. All right, Kudanya, what are your final thoughts and your favorite musician?
Musician, yeah. First, it's great to be sharing my views with outside world, with you people also, and trying to learned a few things. Heard your thoughts on the various issues, and you see, at the end of the day, I've realized that it's the same everywhere. There are problems, and we got to find a solution to it. Without that, there is no way out anywhere in the world. Because even in New Zealand, you have their problems. So even in the best of places, for Indians, we will perhaps aspire to go to the US, to New Zealand, because we feel that it's such a quiet life down there. We see those pictures of the Lord of the Rings and a big shot there, and people think that's the best place in the world. So wherever you go, ultimately you will find something good, something bad. So altogether, what people will have to have a wider perspective of things that will be, that will help them understand each other better. From India, we are trying to see much more of the world, because we are trying to deal with our problems, our poverty, a lot of difference of there's a huge gap between the rich people and the poor people. So that also influences a lot of people's thoughts. But overall, we are watching out, and we are looking at the world. As for music, well, see, I listen to more of Hindi music, but English I do. So it's not about one particular musician. It's about whichever whichever song you like. So earlier, if you in early days, I used to like some songs of Bob Marley. Sometimes people not like.
Hey, hey.
And if you talk about music, then even what Martin Luther King said, that I have a dream, even that sounds music. If you look at it in that manner, because
I
music
get
is
it.
what
Absolutely.
expression of your thoughts, expression of the ideas that you have in mind, expression of a utopian world you have in mind, till somebody comes and break you off from your dream, isn't it?
Right,
So that,
right.
if you ask, but purely from a music point of view, yes, Hindi music, but then you also listen to a lot of other, from George Michael to the later ones from U2. U2 I like because of the way they present their lyrics. They talk
I
about the
think you two
world,
is
and
British. I
but
think they're a British band, aren't they?
yeah, Irish, not American. But as I said, the type of music I like.
Irish.
I don't
Okay.
differentiate this part of the world. I don't differentiate it between U.S. music. It's
I
American
get it.
singer or
I
something.
get it. I
Yeah.
get it.
For us, it is good music. Is good music, and we Indians tend to go more for the for what the words are in that particular music, the lyrics as such. So whatever
Okay.
that anything that can bring about what I actually want to identify with, that's good enough. So that's it. As I said, we look at it for us even in Indian context. If you see the things that we look, the way we look at the world is, as we call in Sanskrit, Vasudev Kutumbam, that the world is one big family. So we are trying to look at it from that manner, and always we will look. We do not have any. India has never attacked any country. India has never have had imperialistic ambitions. It has always had love to spread out to the world, either in the form of what you call in the form of Buddhism or anything else. So in the same way, we look at the world as one whole family. We have had our own share of problems. We do face problems outside, but at the end of the day, it is still a one big family. So, and whenever anybody from outside comes in, we have our problems. They may not like it. It may be Britishers, it may be Americans. I work with a lot of people. But once they stay here for some time, you can go from here, but you can never let go of the India that you carry along with you. So that's it. That's the whole perspective from India on this particular day.
Awesome. All right, Eric, hook us up. What's your final thoughts? And you have to bring a great musician.
Me? Sorry. I think my final thoughts are oppression only works when the oppressed don't have a voice, and shows like this are the thing the establishment is the most afraid of. The fact that we can all get together and talk and figure out that we're all more similar than we are different, and that really it is the distribution of wealth that's the biggest problem in every country. And I think just keep doing what you're doing. We all have to keep doing this. We all have to realize that it's us against them. It's not a race issue. It's really just the wrong people are in control right now, no matter where you are or what color you are. And I have equal parts. I listen equally to Pearl Jam and Wu-Tang. So
Really?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm not surprised. That's good picks, though. Good picks. All right, EJ, what's your final thoughts today? EJ?
All right. Yeah, all right, I hope this doesn't lag. I've been lagging majority of this episode, so sorry, y'all. Yeah. Can you hear me? Oh, there we are. We're going. Goddamn. What was I about to say? What did I learn? Take away. Oh, I learned a lot about New Zealand. Recently, everybody I've talked to, I've always been like, yo, I'm getting out of here and fuck this. So it was cool just to like learn a bit more about, hey, look at my handles right there. Bang. It was cool to hear about that, learning that New Zealand also has their own issues that are similar to the US. And just as we all said, learning that every country has some sort of the same issue, but to a different degree. So it's interesting to hear from all these other people and just hearing more takes about it.
So
hey,
tell us your favorite musician, EJ.
Oh, who am I listening to? My favorite rapper. Okay. Well, God.
I mean, we know who your favorite rapper is. You can pick somebody else.
Favorite rapper. Yeah, my favorite rapper is Jay-Z. Who I've been listening to right now, it's going between Lil Baby and Griselda. That group, Flow New York.
Okay.
Been vibing with that. I really like Wu-Tang kind of feel.
Okay. I haven't heard of them, so you gotta send me some links. EJ keeps me relevant.
That's it.
Pretty much. Okay. Thank you, EJ. And Jessica, your final thoughts.
But you go against it.
All the time. All the time. That's what best friends are for. Jessica, what's your final thoughts for tonight?
Opinion and everything that I mean, this was that's why I kind of got silent, because I became more of a participant. Like, let me hear what y'all got to say. So I mean, I really just enjoy hearing the different perspectives around the world and how we're viewed, because I will say one of the things that helped to change my perspective is as I traveled and got outside of my bubble and thinking everybody thought the way I did. And it's different in college, but it's even different when you travel to different countries. So I just been being more of a student this time, because I definitely know New Zealand and Australia is on the bucket list. So I just been excited to hear your perspective. And then obviously the conversation earlier. I mean, nothing beats Black is King and the movement of the beauty of being Black and being able to celebrate that. So I enjoyed those highlights and what that impact of BLM has been around the world. So that was definitely a huge takeaway in conversation. And then too, I mean, just don't be afraid to listen to somebody who has a difference of opinion than you. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is you don't have to listen to just people who only agree with what you do. Challenge your beliefs, understand, relearn what you think you know. Absolutely. And start from blank. That's definitely something, you should take away from Talk It Out. When in doubt, talk it out. And I've had fun today. I did a lot more listening than talking, but
which is fine. I think that is part of the tagline: learning to listen and be understood, or something like that. I say. So before I say my final thoughts, I want to once again thank all my guests, but especially to my international guests, especially to my guests across the pond, because I don't know what time it is. Eric, he rushed to get here just to do this, and I really appreciate it. I didn't get a chance to throw his social media up there, so that's the website you can go to check his podcast, correct?
Yep.
And these are his social media handles, so you can find him there. And I want to thank everyone once again. My final thoughts are, now more than ever, this conversation blew my mind, learning everything about New Zealand and kind of reinforcing some of the things I knew about India. It makes me have a respect for other people, and it also makes me realize that this is a global thing. Like, I feel closer to you all having had this conversation, because you think things are so far away from you, but you don't realize how much the stuff that's happening right in front of you affects people so far away. I really encourage anyone who watched this episode or is watching or will watch to travel. Learn something from someone who lives in a place that's not like yours, and you will discover that you have more similarities than differences, and you also would discover that they have a lot to teach you. So, having said that, I want to say thank you for joining us for another edition of Talk It Out, where we talk it out. Keeping in mind, it's not always about listening. I'm sorry, it's not always about proving who's right or who's wrong. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. Have a great evening.
Thanks for having